Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to have this opportunity to give you a general outlook about China's steel industry in 2023. The coking coal industry is very relevant to the steel market because coking coal can be used to produce coal, and steel price can affect the price of coking coal and vice versa. In particular, last year and this year, because of the rising of the coking coal price, the steel industry has seen a rising cost. Let me share with you my observation from three perspectives. I will give you a general overview about the world and China's macroeconomic trend. And this is not our own analysis, and this is mostly from the World Bank and IMF. On a global scale, there is this low growth, high inflation, high cost, high interest rates, and high leverage and high uncertainty. The risk of inflation will be somewhat relieved, but the pressure of stagnation will be extended. And there is this economic stagnation in the United States because it has been troubled by inflation in 2023. The downward pressure is actually going up for the whole world. And from macroeconomic analysis 2023, you can take a look at these two projections on the left by the World Bank and on the left by IMF, on the right by World Bank. And both are not so optimistic about the world. IMF estimated 2.9% of GDP growth for the whole world, and World Bank estimated a GDP increase of 1.7% for the whole world. And there are a lot of uncertainties for developed economies, and for China, IMF believes that our economy will grow by 5.2%, and World Bank believes that China's economy will grow by 4.3% in 2023. So now let's take a look at China's economic development stage. And the first stage, I believe, is between 2002 and 2008, and that is before the global financial crisis. And we had very rapid growth of our economy. But in recent years, we have slowed down, but the development quality has enhanced. In 2007, our GDP increase hit 14%, and that is a marvelous growth pace. And following that year, our economy has slowed down year by year. But bear in mind that in March 2010, the 14th five-year plan was released, and the long-range objective towards 2035 was released, according to which the per capita GDP in 2035 would double that of 2025. And that means that each and every year our GDP has to grow by 4.6%. So that is to say that between 2023 and 2035, China's GDP would have to grow at an annual pace of no less than 4.6%. For this year, our GDP target was set as 4.5%. So what are the positives and what are the negatives? The positive factors include the lift of COVID-19 measures. The most striking negative factor is the overall slowdown of the global economy. International trade saw a negative growth in February, and also we have the decoupling that is advocated by the United States. By that I mean decoupling of the U.S. economy with that of China, which will have definitely some implications over our industry. For the steel industry in 2022, we saw the record high number of production, which is 1.065 billion tons. I personally believe that this will be a record high number for many years to come. Because in 2021, our target was to contain the productivity by 30 million tons, and we did that in 2021. Last year, our target was to contain the productivity by 10 million tons, and we achieved that target as well. But last year, the policy factor was not the dominant one. Last year, we were troubled by COVID-19 pandemics, and that is a very important factor. And this year, to our understanding, because we are affiliated to the NDRC and also to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. So from the perspective of China Metallurgical Industry Planning and Research Institute, we know that a lot of the steel factories, they are in a business loss. They're losing money. Many steel companies, they complain to the government that we need to lift the limitation or containment on steel productivity. Otherwise, we might end up with more economic losses. In 2023, between January and February, the crude steel productivity for in China increased by 5.6%. I will delve into this number later. From the perspectives of imports and export, over the past 10 years, exported steel was around 60 to 70 million tons, and imports was around 12 million tons. And last year, because of the sluggish domestic demand, imports went down. This year, from January to February, you can see that imports has been going down continuously, and this means that domestic economy is having a very slow, very insignificant amount of imports of steel. And this also means that steel is not a major driver of domestic economic growth, but actually the price of steel overseas is also much higher than that of domestic steels. So that is why China is having significant exports of steel, but significant amount of exports is not in line with our industrial policies. Starting from 2 years ago, we have removed all the export tax subsidies for steel. So large quantity of steel export is not in line with our industrial policy in general. So what are the factors behind export productivity decrease? Because the real estate sector is not doing very well. I visited a lot of steel companies, and they told me they're in a business loss. And yesterday I was at Shanxi steel plant. They have planned a 30 million ton. They have planned a 3 million ton productivity, and they were talking about what type of product to produce, and they said that they would definitely produce steel rolls. In the meantime, they will not produce reinforcing steel bar, definitely. And also the automobile industry is also worth of our attention. So because of the sluggish auto sales, steel demand is also going down accordingly. Now let's take a look at iron ore. And last year at the best time, it's $150 per ton, and at the lowest point, it's $90. And yesterday I just took a look. The iron ore price is sold at $120. So it will definitely have a lot of implications over the domestic market. And now let's take a look at coke and coking coal. To produce 1 ton of steel, we have to use 500 kilos of coke. And at the best time, coke is sold at 4,000 yuan per ton. But the steel is also sold roughly at the same time, which means that 90% of the cost went to coke. So no wonder a lot of the steel companies, they are losing money. So up until present, coke is the dominating part of steel production cost. For the steel price trend, as I mentioned, that iron ore is at a very high level of price. The same goes to steel. So steel plants, they are feeling this pressure of cost in a very strong manner. Stock is going high for steel. The productivity has grown up by 5.6%, but this has not been translated into sales. Starting from January this year, our stock has increased by more than 10 million tons as compared to last year. In terms of profitability in 2022, the steel industry accounted for more than 1% of China's GDP, and this is such a huge industry, but the overall profit of the industry is only 30 billion yuan. In 2023, from January to February, the industry lost 10.1 billion yuan. So this is a very heavy business loss. Taking this opportunity, let me brief you about the characteristics and stages of China's steel industry. In terms of development, I believe China's steel industry is the most competitive in the world. It is the largest market. It is the most active market. We have the most complete industrial system. We have the largest and most abundant talent resources, the most advanced technical equipment, and also the fastest and most timely services. So we also are characterized by 4 leading advantages, both in terms of quality and scale. Over the past 30 years, there are 3 countries that have led in terms of scale. The first is in the UK. So over the past century, there are 3 countries that have led the production of steel. The first is UK. In 1996, China surpassed the production benchmark of 100 million tons. At present, China has been on top of the world in terms of steel production for 26 years, and China's productivity has been accounting for more than 50% of the world's total. If you compare with the UK and US, they have been leading the global steel industry for 100 years. Now in China, in the context of our total economic volume, we believe that China's steel industry will lead the whole world for another 100 years. We are already in 2023, because each and every year we have a total productivity of 900 million tons, and that is equivalent to countries on a 2nd to the 9th position worldwide. So even if we have some productivity decreases, we would still be able to maintain the level of 600 to 700 million tons. We are also leading in terms of the most advanced equipment, and this is a furnace with the capacity of 4,000 cubic meters, and India just came up with another furnace, which is also very advanced, and we want to put in place the best facilities for the sake of efficiency. We are also leading in terms of greenification. General Secretary Xi said that lucid water and glass mountains are invaluable assets. For the steel industry, we have to be environmentally friendly because we are a great emitter of carbon dioxide, second only to power generation. So we are also embracing green production. Take a look at these tables. In China, sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide emissions are 1/10 of the level of France.
And is substantially lower than the level of developed countries. Another factor is this leading position in terms of science and technology. And we actually divide this period of for development of China's steel industry into two periods. First is one that focuses on quantity, and second is the period to focus on the high quality. And currently we're at, we also have 5 substages, and currently I think we're at the second, the transmission period from the second stage to the third stage. In terms of policy, this policy orientation, I think high quality development would be the priority, and it's the same story with the macroeconomy as well as the steel industry. To be more specific, in terms of crude industry, in this year we are still facing this limit to production of steel industry, but a positive policy is that the Minister of Information and Industrial of Industry and Industrial and Information Technology has mentioned that we will be promoting the development of this kind of the production in terms of economics and electronics. And another orientation is the ultra-low emission transformation. I think this is one of the most heavily invested fields in our industry. I think this will lead to massive investment in this regard, and currently around 47 companies have already undergone this renovation, and more is on the road. And another policy is this dual control of energy consumption and industry. The NDRC has pointed out this concept that by 2025, the energy efficiency of the steel industry will exceed 30% of the total, and in 2030, the energy efficiency and benchmark level will be further improved. And another policy orientation is smart manufacture, and will not dwell on the details. And also low carbon transmission oriented. I think the central government has issued this work opinion on carbon peaking and carbon neutral. We have also issued issue notice concerning 4 major industries, and that includes the steel industry. Besides, we are also facing some of the impact of export, and we have policy changes concerning the EU, and steel would be the first batch of product that is undergone restrictions of export. If it is to be expanded, the equipment manufacturer will also be affected, which would have a ramification to our domestic manufacturing industry. I think carbon peaking is easy, but it's not easy to achieve this in a scientific manner. I think carbon peaking is a matter of development, but the key is to address some of the systematic issues. So carbon reduction should prioritize energy and resource conservation, and decarbonization is a matter of technological transformation. I think carbon neutrality is an issue of industrial synergy, integration of industry and city, and regional linkage. This is our understanding of carbon peaking and neutrality in steel industry. We also applaud and support this policy concerning the NDRC and MIIT, and we are still studying some of the standard and policy of this industry. And second, let me report briefly on some of the steel industry and our projection. And in 2023, our projection is that the total demand will be about 910 million tons, and it's about down by 1.1%. Concerning the demand, we believe that machinery, automobile, energy, and shipbuilding, household, and steel construction will be the key. The real estate, containers, and other industries will face this decrease. I'll skip a few slides. We are seeing some upgrades concerning the product quality. High strength has become the highlight in production. We are seeing this. We are adding this 600 MPS grade steel bars, and we are also looking at grain production and products at the same time. This is the situation of construction materials. And we believe that the steel structure will help us to boost this demand for Q355 and above grade. And last year it exceeds 100 million tons and is increasing at an annual growth rate of about 10%. This is the situation of medium thick plates. It has to do with the standard for constructions. This is the situation for cold rolled sheet and coated plates. And this kind of plate is applauded by the construction industries. So generally speaking, during the 14th five-year plan, I think the consumption will be showing a downward trend, but still remain at a high level. So that is our basic judgment concerning the consumption of the 14th five-year period. In terms of import during the 14th five-year plan, I think this import will remain at around 10 million tons annually. And export only accounts for about 6 to 7% of the total production. I think export will help us to boost high quality demand. This is the situation of our research institute, and we are serving at the part of the consulting agency for the government and also the guiding steel industry and the brain of enterprises and businesses. So in our research institutes, annually we have about 200 projects. That's all. Thank you.